Lately, I've been hearing the question, do I need 4K? Maybe you're looking into a new camera or just getting started in video and you're debating whether you need 4K options. Even many of the camera phones out there right now are touting their 4K abilities. But maybe you're wondering what 4K even means. Quite simply, it's a measure of resolution. When you're talking about high definition, you're talking about a screen with 1920 by 1080 pixels in that screen. And when you're talking about 4K, you're talking about 3840 by 2160 pixels. So what this means is that there are 4 times as many pixels in each and every frame when you're shooting in 4K over high def. So if this was your standard 720p, this is what your 1080p would look like, and this is what 4K would look like. You're getting a much larger picture with a lot more detail. But is bigger always better? Let's talk about 4K and first, why you don't need it. Number 1, most people can't view it anyway. There aren't that many people out there that have 4K screens or 4K televisions right now. Even my juggernaut of a monitor is only a 2K monitor. And when it comes to most platforms, you're gonna see that most people are uploading at 1080p. I almost never upload at a higher resolution. And another reason is, editing 4K requires a much more powerful computer. With every frame, you're going to be processing a lot more information, which means you're going to need a much more powerful computer to be able to do that kind of processing. While I was able to build my own computer specifically for the task of breezing through 4K footage, not everybody has that option, so ask yourself, do I have the computer to be able to even edit 4K footage? Now, if you don't, that's okay, because you can go through the process of making proxies for each of your files, but this is an added step and you might not have the time for this added workflow. So ask yourself, is editing with 4K footage really worth it to you? Next, you have limited slow motion options. There are very few affordable cameras out there right now that can do more than 60 frames per second at 4K. So if you're going to be editing and exporting in 4K, you gotta say goodbye to the super buttery slow-mo goose footage that I have right here. It's just not going to happen. Now enough with the negativity, let's talk about 4K and why you do need it. Number 1, you want to future-proof your videos. We're living in a time right now where robots and self-driving cars are just becoming a thing. Let's think about where our resolution standards are going to be 5 years from now. The next reason is because whatever platform you're shooting for requires it. Maybe you're trying to shoot for Netflix that requires that all their footage be in 4K. Standards are changing, and making sure you have the most up-to-date image possible is an important thing to consider. Now the next is fake camera movement, and this is the big benefit of using 4K footage in a 1080p composition. Now this is what your 4K footage would look like in a 1080 composition. It's much larger without ruining the resolution. Now because it's larger, you'll have the ability to animate the scale and position properties to mimic camera techniques without actually having to do them with the camera. Now the next benefit is great if you're a self-shooter with only one camera and you do a lot of projects like interviews. This is extra camera angles and framing. Now if you take your 4K footage and bring it into a 1080p composition, you can now cut to a close-up angle, you can reframe it to be in the center, you can have a real close-up angle to the left, and then you can cut back to your original shot, and this is all done with the same shot. It's like having 4 different cameras with you when you only have one. And while we're talking about reframing shots, I'll talk about wiggle room for effects, because I do love effects. In my transitions video doing the frame fall and the action transition, it was very helpful just in case I didn't get the perspectives right between the 2 shots that I was transitioning with, that I could play around with the scale and size without actually messing with the resolution to make sure that I lined up the 2 shots just perfectly. And finally, I'll touch upon the fact that it expands your professional capabilities. Being able to shoot in 4K just makes you competitive with all the other people out there if you're looking to make money as a videographer. It also allows you another way to get paid if you want to offer 4K as an extra option. This is a great way to sell yourself while 4K is not a baseline standard in the industry. So now that we've covered all this, I'll ask you, do you need 4K? I'll let you decide. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next video.